Hey, experts listeners, I want to key you into something that we do very special here at Ops Experts Club, and that's a masterclass. We have a free masterclass called Foundations That Scale. And the great thing about this masterclass is it's for operation professionals who are growing businesses. One of the most dangerous things you can do as an operator is grow businesses on a foundations that's not stable. So in this particular masterclass, we take apart all of the inside pieces of your team, your tech, and how they're using time. And we make sure that you're building on a foundation that's stable. So if you want to check out a great masterclass completely for free, go to foundationsthatscale.com. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Ops Experts Club with Aaron, Terryn, and Savannah. This podcast will take you behind the scenes of some of the finer details of multi-million-dollar companies. These ops experts have dealt with operations for scaling companies and well-established businesses with anywhere from small to large teams. If you've ever been deep into the details of a major company, then you know how much it takes, and these conversations are just for you. Welcome to the Ops Experts Club podcast.
Ops Experts Club. That's what I'm talking about. Terryn Turner, great to see you today. How's the day?
You too, Aaron. It's going well. Weather is happening outside. I'm not going to say which direction it's leaning because these episodes are timeless. So we're just going to say there's weather outside. I'm happy.
I love it. I'm not going to tell people that we pre-record these on Mondays either, and that Mondays are the stressfulest day on the entire operational calendar. So I don't know how we landed on recording on these things on Mondays, because any of you that are an operator out there know Mondays are awful. Visionaries come in on Mondays. They're like, I love Mondays. Mondays are the greatest. Our Monday's the best. And it's because they come like a fire hydrant and just dump all their crap on their operations-based people. And all the operators are like, dear God, not another Monday. So anyway, I think it's hilarious that we record on Monday. And Terryn, I'm not as disclosing as you. It's pretty warm down here. Let's give a little more weather. It's pretty warm down here in Southern Oregon, especially because it's been pretty rainy up to this point. So
Yeah, for sure. I don't know why we're doing this on a Monday. I don't know who decided that, but it's favorite part of my Monday. So I'm glad I at least have a little upside to every Monday.
Stop it. You just like hanging out with me. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
What else are you going to say? I love it. I just tune up. Anyway, so we are going to interview somebody that's awesome today. A good friend of mine. His name is Greg Thomas. He's from Delta Oil and Gas. We have never talked to somebody from the oil and gas side of the world. So this man, he's like the wizard. He's like the Wizard of Oz. We're like pulling back the veil. This guy's going to give us all kinds of insights, trade secrets. Just kidding. But I do have a lot of respect for this guy, a lot of love for this guy. He's become a good friend over the past year or so. And so with no further ado, Terryn Turner, let's bring Greg Thomas to the stage. Greg.
Hello.
Great to have you here.
Great to be here. See you, my friend. Terryn, nice to meet you.
You too, Greg. I will interject here real quick and say, Aaron, I don't think we've ever interviewed somebody who wasn't awesome. With that being clear, because I don't want to...
A negative ricochet. We don't want to have people being like, wow, I guess they really like Greg and all those other guys.
One of many awesomes.
Yes. So Greg, Delta Oil and Gas, located in Fort Worth. You're in Fort Worth, Texas. Is that where you're at?
Well, several places. We're in Fort Worth. It's where the corporate office is. I've got a field office in Breckenridge, Texas, and then a geologic office in Boulder, Colorado. So we're kind of spread out.
Terryn, look at we could get so freaking nerdy right now on just the titles of those field locations, like the field location, geological location. Terryn, what you don't know about Terryn, Greg, is that Terryn has recently become old McTurner had a farm. Basically has recently come into farm life over the last year or so. And so every L10, every level 10 meeting we're on, we're like personal best, business best. Terryn's level 10 personal best this morning was that he put the horses on fresh pasture and it's tall grass and that they're really happy and that's his personal best. So I think anytime we can get a little bit nerdier, geographical things, or I guess I'm saying that wrong. The geological side of things, I think we get excited about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I get kind of nerdy with it too. So I'm a geologist by undergraduate training. So we'll go nerd out with you, man.
So listeners, it sounds like I'm going to be the guy that holds the line on not getting too nerdy between Terryn and Greg right now, going down a rabbit hole of geological findings. So Greg, how long have you been doing this? Like what got you into that side of the industry? Like tell us a little bit about you, man. We were excited to hear that.
My family, I was always in the oil business. And when I got to college, I didn't really know what to do. So I did a geology degree. When I got out of school, there were no jobs in the oil business. So my dad said, why don't you go find yourself the job and get trained and then come back someday. And I ended up doing a finance, MBA in finance, and did natural gas trading for several years. And then I ended up coming back without even thinking about it. Never thought I'd be doing this. And I came to this company in 2002, vice president, and became president in 2008, took over the company, and we've kind of just grown ever since. It's been a great move. It's not really kind of what I planned on doing, but it's worked out really well for me, I think.
It's awesome. And so it sounds like, at least from the little bit of research that I've been doing online, it sounds like that you've got kind of employees kind of stationed at all those different places. And have you seen oil and gas change or rise and fall? Is oil and gas something that you need more employees for at sometimes and lesser at other times? Or through the years, has it become kind of a different game?
Well, if you look at the big companies, when the oil prices and gas prices go down, you'll see them do layoffs. I fortunately never had to, even during COVID when it went nothing. We kept everybody employed. My thought is if you let people go, you're never going to find them again. So we kind of just tighten our belts in the tough times and try to keep a cash cushion around so that when these times do hit, and they inevitably will, it's a boom or bust cycle in the oil business. Try to keep it where everybody's going to keep a job.
Yeah.
Because when we come out the other side, you're going to need them.
What kind of folks do you have working with you? Like when you think about the people that are on deck with you, like, I mean, you're just such a novelty, man. You're so sexy. We're like, man, what does Greg do? How does it work? Like, how does Terryn and I have a whole theory here at Ops Experts Club, and that is operations is pretty much operations. We've got people that are brewery clients up in Montana. We've got attorney clients in Wyoming. We have real estate tycoons that we help who are in the education space. We have all different kinds of folks that we help. But what we found is pretty much regardless of the vertical, operations is operations. So I guess we're trying to test it now when it comes to oil and gas on, is that really true though? Is that probably true for oil and gas? So talk to us about the kind of folks that you have on deck and on the team.
Yeah, I think it is true. Like I said, I've got my background is geology with an MBA in finance. My COO, who just left recently, has a PhD in advanced mathematics. So I have that guy. I've got a geologist. I've got 5 geologists work for me. And then I've got 1 petroleum engineer. I've got engineering interns. So it's technical and science-based for all the stuff we do. Of course, I got the normal accounting folks and things like that. My field people are the backbone, and I'm going to call them the data operations. So the guy my director of field operations started with the company right out of high school. And just the guy's brilliant. He's worked his way up, and he's my number 2 guy now. And he's just done a fantastic job. All the operations guys, whether they're well lease operators or they're the workover crews, the roustabout, or the guys that the drilling, the guys that do production, those are my operations guys, and they are fantastic. That's a job that doesn't really require a college degree, but it's a job that you can make 6 figures in almost immediately.
That's great. Terryn Turner, what do you got? What does your brain begin to think about in all the nerdiness?
I was swimming trying to come up with some questions here, but I mean, kind of like what I'd go through with different people is, we've got everybody's a person, and then we've got their job descriptions, and that's what they're working from. We've got our task management tools. It's kind of like aligning them towards the projects, project managers, different people, just managing, making sure things are happening. I assume you still got that flow in there with that.
We do. So I mentioned the guy that runs the operations, got it divided up below him. So we operate 450 wells in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a broad area. So I've got a supervisor over each area of Texas. And then we have the teams that are under them, the guys that go out to the well every single day. They check the pump on the pumping unit. They check the volume in the tanks. They check that the gas is flowing. If there's something broken, easily for them to fix, they'll fix it. They can't, call the crew out. We'll get a rig out and we'll either pull the pipe or whatever we need to do to fix it. So it's very operations intensive. With the 45 folks I have, probably 3/4 of them are field ops.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you need 4 of those more than anything else.
Yeah. So they driving from some pretty developed SOPs.
They are. That's one of the things that we never had until probably the last 5 years. And those in place, KPIs. I've never heard of a KPI until 5 years ago. Now everyone has their KPIs to deal with. Our efficiencies are up to 98%, which in the oil business is ridiculous. We're killing it as far as our efficiencies are going. And I have to credit, my chief operating officer for doing that. He came in with big industry experience. We've always been kind of a small company, and I knew to take it to the next level, I'm going to have to have somebody that understands the stuff I don't. And I was able to bring him in, and he was able to come and just do a fantastic job. Bad thing is, he did such a good job that he got it so efficient that he kind of worked himself out of a job. Got nothing to praise for that man. hope he finds a good spot soon, and I'm sure he will because he's a brilliant guy. But he brought in the big words that we never used. So we got SOPs on everything now. It's an amazing, different company than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. And do you find
Great.
that since bringing in SOPs, the people running with the SOPs, they feel more confident about what they're doing, that they have something to follow?
Yeah, they do. We always had training. It was like kind of a gray area what your job is and nobody really knew. Now they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis, on a month-to-month basis, on a year-to-year basis. I mean, so that their jobs will transition depending on what phase we're in the industry, but they know exactly what to do in that phase. So it's been fun to watch it, honestly. And everybody seems happy that they got exactly what they're doing. So there's no question. And it's like, well, you didn't tell me to do that. Well, it's in your SOP, man. So we all know.
Yeah.
So good. I think that, Terryn and I were just on a call this morning with another visionary, right? I think what you said a couple things there that I thought were really, really good. And that was your operator, your main guy, helped you in the things that you weren't good at or the things that you didn't know. And I think just like taking some pressure out of the room, I think a lot of times visionaries or owners of companies, CEOs can feel like they have to have all the answers. And what that generates is like a really unhealthy, from my perspective, like they come on the field and then they start micromanaging a bunch of things that they're quite frankly not skilled at, right? And so then they create a bunch of dust. All they're doing is kicking up problems and kicking up dust because they get micromanaging and they get in the weeds and then they tell the people to do something that's probably not the best way for them to do it anyway, because their mind is not wired for operations. Their mind is operated for results, right? And so they're pushing from a results perspective instead of saying, hey, but how did we get here and where did things break? And right, they don't want to get that much into the minutia. So then they just try and solve with broad strokes. And they get off a call feeling like, I just really helped the team, but they get out of the call and the team feels like I am so confused on what I'm supposed to do with that. So I think it's great to identify, just because you're the leader of an organization doesn't mean that all things should come back to you, or that you should be the one making all decisions, or that you should be the one putting everybody on the right track. That there's different skill sets. EOS would say, the Entrepreneur's Operating System from the book Traction by Gino Wickman would say there's a visionary and there's an integrator. And the visionary is the sharp end of the spear, the one out in front, the one that's got the business ideas, the one that's carrying it forward. But they need an integrator that's going to come in and say, okay, I see where you're trying to go, but there's some infrastructure that's going to need to be built out to support your vision. So let me come in and build those out. And it sounds like that's what your operator did a great job coming in and creating SOPs. And then I love what you talked about KPIs. And that was the call Terryn and I was on this morning with another visionary who was trying to roll out KPIs. And we got in this like a little bit of a circular loop where we start talking about, well, what should the KPIs be? And what I said was, well, let's identify first, what are the things you're going to be blowing people up about the most, right? Like, cause as visionaries, there are certain things, and a lot of times it's around money, right? Like how much money's coming in, how profitable are on this, how much energy is going into that, because I want to be more profitable in these ways. So you tell us what's the burn, let's determine what the KPI should be. And then let's assign those out to people based upon who the role is. And then once we have those things that the CEO is going to be most like amped up about, then we can drill down on each one of these roles and develop some of maybe the minor KPIs, but let's make sure we're covering the bases on the big moving numbers that are most important to you. Because otherwise we all know we've all worked for people. We've all maybe Greg, you and I, CEOs of different companies, Terryn has his own company. Like it's easy for us to get worried about certain things and then we're fixated on it. So let's just take those worries out of the room by giving somebody a metric they're going to have to manage. And then from there, let's determine KPIs based upon their SOPs, like you were saying, because otherwise what happens is we start coming up with a bunch of like random KPIs that we're giving people, like KPIs for KPI's sake. And then that's not scratching the itch of the CEO and is maybe a harder number to track or to, really report on. And now we're just chasing KPIs for KPI's sake. So I think I really like the whole idea of an SOP that generates a result. And then let's come up with a key performance indicator based on those results that's going to speak the language of the visionary.
Right. I agree with you 100%.
Terryn, what do you think about all that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that is funny that we were just talking about that today too. And he brought up KPIs, have you ever dabbled in any sort of performance pay structure based on KPIs?
We don't really do that.
Wait a minute. Let's just qualify that for a minute. Terryn's project coming out of the meeting today was developing some pay structure around KPIs. So I think Terryn's trying to put his homework off on you, Greg. So don't feel too bad as you come away with an answer. I think Terryn's trying to get out some work right now, which is
research.
Well, I'll tell you, we don't. Our industry is pretty much standardized as far as
Mhm.
paid what, a little bit higher than our competitors in the industry because we want to keep people. Well, I do an annual bonus based on performance,
Mhm.
on their performance reviews.
Yeah.
So it's a percentage of their salary. It's usually 15%. This is at the high end and it can go up. Well, you can go higher if somebody's really a rock star, or it'll be down 10% at the minimum. So everybody gets a nice bonus, but their base pay is based on pretty much industry standard.
Mhm.
It's hard to get away from that.
Mhm.
Trying to attract people and, I understand what you're trying to do with it, but I don't know if it would work so well in this industry.
Yeah.
It's kind of set up that way.
Yeah. It's pretty tough.
I think it's tough in a lot of industries. We had the conversation today. I think it's easier to get to that spot if you can tie it back directly to a metric where people are making money for you. And you're like, hey, let me create a rev share bonus of some kind of thing if you perform at a certain level. But it becomes tougher, I think, when it becomes operational based rules. So Terryn and I talked a lot about when it becomes operations, then I think you flip over into efficiencies. Like, how can we become more efficient? And then the more efficient you are, then you're actually saving us money, which I think that's a really hard concept to come up in a visionary's mind is, hey, there are two different ways you make money. One way is like knocking down more dollars and making more money that way. But otherwise, like saving money is actually putting more money back in your pocket too. And it's not realized new dollars, it's actually just realizing more dollars from existing dollars. And so I think if you can come up with strong KPIs that are generating money for you, either through sales or through savings, I think that's the easiest spot to do some sort of like performance pay plan if you can get there. But I think, like Terrence said, or like you said, Greg, it doesn't work for everybody. And even the ones it does work for, I think you have to be really careful and make sure it makes sense for everyone, because you don't want it actually to hurt your business where people are like, well, I'm not going to stick around here because this just doesn't make sense. I'm not financially making it because you've made it too complex on me making money. But at the same time, I can appreciate, hey, we're going to reward people if they show up well. And if they're not showing up well, then they're going to feel it and maybe weed themselves out. So I think there's some push and pull for sure.
What it's interesting you mentioned that. One of the things I do is on my technical team, my geologists and engineers, the ones that are coming up with the projects. I mean, there's a lot of work to come up with a project, an individual one. I let them invest into the project. So if we have a new oil and gas deal, the guy who generates it can invest up to 2%, 2.5%. The team that worked on it can invest up to 1%. And what I always tell them is, guys, your salary is what pays your bills. Your working interest, what you can invest in, is what's going to make you rich. And so, if they invest on every single deal they're in, 1% of a 100 million deal is big. You make 1 million barrels of oil and gas or of oil, 1% is pretty big.
Wow.
And so if you have multiple of those deals, these guys are going to make a lot of money. It also retains them because they won't want to go anywhere else, because why would I leave when I'm killing it here?
Mm-hmm.
That's super smart. I like that a lot. I really love business models where you're enabling your people to win. Because like it never feels good to strap into a company where you're like, the boss is the only one that wins. Like I kill myself. I work all these hours. I'm doing all this extra, and then I just don't get a win. So I think it's cool, Greg, that you say, hey, let me call you up. Let me call you out. Let's go get you some wins too. I think that's a really important thing.
You're not going to have loyalty people if you don't do that, I don't think. And they'll jump ship to somewhere else for a little bit more money, but they've got big money coming in. And, it takes them 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to get that, and they're killing it in 20 years. At first it doesn't look like much when they'll invest in one deal here, and in 5 years, I've got a nice little check. But in 20 years, they're getting a big check every month. And they're like, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Problem is they want to retire in 20 years. I'm like, no.
Greg and I are both in Wellspring, which is Pete Vargas's mastermind. And, when Dan Martell spoke on this, I don't know if you remember this, but just from our last gathering this past year in Florida in Boca Raton, but Dan Martell came and he said that really he only ever expects to keep somebody for about 4 years. And if they'll come and they'll give them a strong 4 years, that I thought this was really unique because I've never heard somebody say this before. But he said he'll tell them straight out, like, if you'll give me your best for the next 4 years, I'll help you get to where you want to get to after this. You know what I mean? And I thought, man, what a brilliant way. And the way he said he did it was he asked them what they dream about. Hey, what do you dream about? What do you want? Like, where would you want to go? I'll open up my Rolodex. I'll introduce you to anybody you want to be introduced to. I'll help you get into whatever it is you want to get into. And some people over those 4 years, like Dan did some really powerful things, gave some guys some dream car. One of his high sales guys, got him into his dream car. And it's like, once you start establishing some of those loyalties, those guys don't want to go anywhere. So you opened up their opportunity. You're saying, hey, I only expect it for 4 years. I'll be get to anywhere next. But you come to that 4 years and you've been treating them like that. very, very likely they're going to want to stick around with you for another 4 or another
Right.
2nd. And so I think really helping people see, hey, how can a rising tide lift all ships when it comes to money coming into the business? I'm not just going to get rich as the entrepreneur or as the main guy. I'm going to help us all win. I think that's a beautiful thing.
I love that. And I think my team loves that.
Yeah.
They all want to stay. I've got one 40-year employee that's been with the company that long, just before me. I've got a couple of 30-year, a lot of 20 years. I don't have much turnover. People like what they're doing, and they stay.
Terryn, have we ever talked to anybody on any of our shows ever 40-year employee?
No.
Terryn, I expect you to be with me for the next 40. Can I just say you've been with me for 10? I just want 30 more out of you. I don't feel like that's too much to ask. Like, let's do this until we're 60 and 70. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah. I'm down.
The older guys that have been there, they're doing different jobs, and they may not be out in the heat as much, but they still like being there with people, and they still like the job. And we'll change their job description and give them a better, something that's a little easier for the older guys to do. But as long as they want to stay and they're performing and functioning, and I'd love to keep them. That's institutional knowledge. You can't just build it overnight.
Yeah.
So you got somebody that's been there for so long, they know where the pipelines are, they know where all the skeletons are buried. And it's like, those guys are the ones that can really do, when you scratch your head and say, where is that? Oh, I've got a map in my head. Let me show you where it is. And that's something you just can't get overnight.
Man, I wish more people, Terryn, like I think so oftentimes the visionaries can get in their mind that if somebody isn't performing the way they want to perform pretty quick, and I feel like they determine it pretty quick, they're pretty quick to want to cut people loose instead of realizing, no, it may take them a little bit of time. But if I treat them right and I culture them right and I give them the right expectations, right KPIs, I reward them when they're succeeding, I tell them when they're not, and we last it through the storm. I do feel like, Greg, to your point, like you are creating a map in their head of institutional knowledge. I know, Terryn, you were talking about that the other day with one of the visionaries of, hey, whoa. Like, don't let her go. Like she carries all the institutional knowledge of things that nobody else here knows. Be really careful. Have we coached her up? Have we done quarterly evals with her? Have we taught her what we want her to know? Have we told her where she's not showing up well? But I think a lot of times visionaries are it's really black and white. Yeah, they're awesome. No, they suck. You know what I mean? And then it's like one of the others that are realizing, no, working things through with people, helping them understand what our expectations are. And then what you're also really investing into them is institutional knowledge for how you do, what you do, why you do, which is going to be a benefit for you over time, as long as you're culturing them the right way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every business we're in, anybody we've talked to, it's all people. I mean, it's the people business. And then you happen to make a product, you can't do it without the people you have.
Yeah.
And it's way cheaper and more efficient and easier, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but to keep somebody around than to want to get rid of somebody and get somebody new.
Man, ROI on existing talent, like don't underestimate that, man. You've invested so much in this person. Could you just spend a little bit more time to refine down the things you don't like? Because as you cut them loose, you lose all of that investment time. Like don't lose the ROI on your existing people by not spending the time you need to spend with them to culture them the right ways. That's great. I love that. I remember Rob Bell has something he says about the village elder is what he talks about it. But he says, here in America, we're so funny with our older people. We send them to this place called Florida. I mean, and it's like we station away all of our older people, and like they become all these really valuable people that were with these businesses for all these years that have all of this knowledge that could be such a wealth. And instead we make them feel like they need to like retire and be placed someplace other that is not going to be for us any longer. Instead of, no, how can we draw out of people that have seen a lot and experienced a lot and have a wealth of understanding that can actually help us maneuver forward. So I love that, Greg. I think it's so cool.
Now, don't get me wrong. I do have guys that retire. They get to a point where, I want to go enjoy life. I want to go ride my best boat. I want to go grandkids out. I tend to offer them a contract or consulting job. Hey, will you consult when we need you? Maybe 2 or 3 days a month. Sometimes it's 2 weeks a month. And these guys are happy to come back and do that. Because they know that, hey, there's always, I don't have to go fishing all the time. That's been a lot of fun too, having the sages come back. I saw one guy the other day who was one of my head driller for 32 years. And when we start drilling, I'll bring him back for the first well with the new guys, and he'll kind of train them up. I kind of make sure everything's running good, and then he'll go back and play golfers. It's just fun to have. You don't ever get to retire completely. I'm going to keep you around somewhere.
Love that.
Nobody wants to truly do nothing.
Right. And it helps them feel important still. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, I just think, what a sad thing. Like, they were so important for such a long amount of time and then they're just not needed anymore. Nobody likes that feeling. Like, everybody wants to feel needed and feel important and feel good at something like that. That helps us all. So I think that's awesome. Well, Greg, man, it's been so good to have you on the show. It goes by so quick, but I super appreciate just who you are. Your friendship is great. And I feel like we've talked through some really good things today about KPIs and SOPs and the value of people and investing in folks and making sure you're understanding the ROI of your people and keeping them around as long as you can for the sake of the institutional knowledge that they possess. I think such a great example you've got in your company. Thank you for spending time with us, man.
Can I throw one last thing at you real quick?
Please.
Mhm.
Okay, there's a show out now about the oil and gas industry called Landman. Taylor Sheridan wrote it and it directs it. It's got John Hamm, Billy Bob Thornton, Demi Moore. I just want to let you guys know it's not real. Since I'm your first oil and gas guy, don't hear people think that's real. It's more
I
stuff.
love it, man.
One episode that happened in my entire career, so just don't believe that. It's a great show. I'd recommend it, but it's not.
Thank you for educating us because I was going to go start watching. I'm like, oh, is that what Greg does? And so now I know, no, that's not what Greg does.
Guys, it's been so much fun. Thanks for inviting me to do this, Aaron and Terryn. It's been great.
Yeah.
Talk.
Yep. Good to see you.
All righty. Well, Ops
Thanks.
Experts, thanks for tuning in. And we'll see everybody next week here on Ops Experts Club. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ops Experts Club podcast. New episodes available every week on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're curious about how some of the biggest names in entrepreneurship have scaled their businesses to the next level, check out some of our best content on this topic by going to foundationsthatscale.com. You can find the link in our bio and do your part to improve as an ops expert.